guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. If you're new here, my name is Sharifah. I'm a marriage counselor and life coach. This week I want to get into setting healthy boundaries, especially with those closest to us, like our spouses, our friends, our in-laws, parents, workmates, and our children. People often ask me for tips on how to set these healthy boundaries, how to hold them and manage them. So we'll start right at the beginning so that we can be clear. What is a boundary? Boundaries can be defined as limits we set with other people, which indicate what we find acceptable and unacceptable in their behavior towards us. It's a clear place where you begin and the other person ends. By setting your boundaries, you're telling others how you want to be treated and expect to be treated. In other words, you're setting your limits about who can come into your space and what's expected of them once they're there. If you find the concept of healthy boundaries difficult to understand, think of other sorts of boundaries, like property lines, fences, lines in the sand. Do you have any such markers, limits, stop signs, or deal breakers in your personal life? Yes? No? Maybe you don't understand why you might need these boundaries. So let's look at why having healthy boundaries in place is so important. I view healthy boundaries as a crucial component of self-care. That's because in work or in our personal lives, poor boundaries lead to resentment, disappointment, anger, and burnout. When others understand your boundaries, it will transform your ability to communicate and help nip issues in the bud before they overwhelm you. You see, having a lack of boundaries, on the other hand, can often lead to emotional manipulation from those around you, whether or not it's intention. And I know setting boundaries is easier said than done. For some, a lot of us are people pleasers and have issues with saying no when someone asks for a favor or whatever. And we find ourselves in situations that we aren't comfortable with or end up doing things out of obligation. And while this may seem like a good thing at face value, it often means that you're choosing to prioritize the needs of other people over your own. So if you feel like kicking yourself for agreeing to do something you find emotionally and physically taxing, draining, boring, or that's creating unnecessary stress in your life, then newsflash, you may have a problem setting boundaries. If you recognize an unhealthy pattern of saying yes to things you don't like doing and can't speak up and communicate your needs or concerns to those around you, you should ask yourself if what you're teaching these people about how you want to be treated is really what you want them to learn. You know, the way people treat you is based on how you've trained them to treat you, right? And look, I'm not saying that you're responsible for other people's behavior. No. This is not about blame. I am simply saying that you have power over your reactions. How you respond to the way people treat you teaches them how to treat you. Our response either reinforces their behavior and increases the likelihood it will be repeated, or our response decreases the likelihood of the repetition. When it comes to people, what gets rewarded is what gets done, and what gets reinforced tends to be repeated. Yeah, I know this sounds a bit shallow and superficial, but it's just the way humans are wired, you know, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, why would anyone repeat a behavior that offers no rewards or benefits, right? Why would anyone continue to do something that doesn't provide any tangible results? The short answer is they won't. So dear friend, if people are calling you at odd hours of the night, it is because you keep answering. If people keep asking you to do things that are beyond what you can do, it's because you keep saying yes. If people are showing up at your house late in the night, it's because you keep opening the door for them. If people keep taking more than you can give, it's because you keep giving. If people treat you like you don't get tired, it's because you act like you don't get tired. Learn to recognize the signs that someone has crossed your boundaries. These may include feelings of anger, resentment, violation, disappointment, or guilt. And then act accordingly. Put some healthy boundaries in place that will protect your well-being. This leads to the question, what do healthy and unhealthy boundaries look like? I've noticed lots of people have the wrong idea about boundaries. First of all, a boundary is not meant to be unkind, controlling, or meant to keep people out. No. Again, healthy boundaries are put in place to help you honor your needs. But an unhealthy boundary, on the other hand, seeks to control or hurt others. An example of an unhealthy boundary would be a partner saying something like, babe, I need you to stop talking to other guys or other girls because I'm afraid you might cheat on me, or because it makes me so jealous. That's a boundary I'm setting, and you must do it. You must come through. But hey, that's not a healthy boundary. It's actually a warning sign or red flag that your partner may have trust, controlling, or excessive jealousy issues. Run. I mean, that's not a healthy boundary. So let's look at what healthy boundaries look like. For starters, we need to note that there are different types of boundaries, and some of them are physical, emotional, mental, sexual, professional, material, time, non-negotiable boundaries, etc., etc. One person's healthy boundaries with a romantic partner will be very different from that same person's healthy boundaries with a boss, friend, or coworker. Think through your own boundaries by paying attention to how you feel about situations around you. What makes you uncomfortable? What's important to you? What do you want to keep private? Is there any type of behavior or trait that would not fly with you like ever? To start out, we'll look at an example of a romantic partnership kind of healthy boundary. One would go like, babe, I feel embarrassed and powerless when you yell at me in public or in front of the kids. I would like for you to stop doing that. Another example would be like, babe, physical abuse or infidelity are deal breakers for me. I will not continue in this relationship if you do either of those things to me. Another example would be a partner saying something like, boo-boo, look, I'm cool with following each other on social media, but I'm not cool with sharing passwords. No. Those are a few examples you could set, with your partner. Pick what works for you. And we can look at an example of a healthy professional boundary, yeah? It could look like, hi, I'm sorry, I reserve my evenings for family time, So I will respond to all work emails first thing in the morning. Let's look at an example of a time boundary. I can't come to that event this weekend. Or I can only stay for an hour, or I would love to help, but I would be overcommitting, so maybe another time. Or you could say, hey, look, we have family time on Sundays, so we won't make it. Look, your time is precious. Protect how it's utilized. Set boundaries with your friends, in-laws, even well-meaning ones, Politely decline their request to come over past 9 p.m. if you think you'd rather spend time with family or even alone just, watching a movie. Rather than fostering resentment, we can instead try to set and communicate our boundaries. Finally, boundaries can also be important in a parent-child relationship. For example, parents might ask their children never to enter their bedroom without knocking first in order to maintain, some privacy. If you're ever not clear on one's boundaries, just ask. Questions like, hey, is this okay? Are you cool with this? Let people know there are certain things you will not tolerate. Being shouted at, lied to, silenced, mistrusted, whatever it is, make it known that going past these boundaries is a journey they may not want to take. Say no to tasks you don't want to or have time to do. Don't overcommit. Drop the guilt, taking blame, responsibility for others. Communicate discomfort. Speak up if you feel uncomfortable with how someone is treating you or if your needs are being infringed upon. Honor what's important to you by choosing to put yourself first. Ask for space if you feel suffocated. Stick up for yourself. Protect your right to privacy. Exercise the ability to change your mind. You have a right to your own time, the right to maintain or remain true to your principles. So right now would be a good time for you to ask yourself, how am I eliciting my partner, workmate, friend, child, parent, or in-law's behavior, or allowing it to continue? Who's crossing your boundary and why? And how do you put an end to it? One way to identify your boundaries is to think about the areas of your life Where are you experiencing problems? Yeah? Like, do you feel uncomfortable around your coworker? Do you feel resentful towards your in-law or friends' intrusions? Yeah? Each of these problems is telling you that you're lacking boundaries in this area of your life. It's time to take ownership of the role you've been playing. Even if you've spent decades in the same old negative pattern, I guarantee that once you change the dynamic, the behavior will change as well. Love yourself enough to set boundaries. Your time and energy are precious. You get to choose how to use it. You teach people how to treat you by deciding what you will and won't accept. So if you don't want to be a doormat, get off the floor. You decide your worth. If people are not treating you right, stop blaming them. Ask yourself why you keep letting them. Be careful with how much you tolerate. You're teaching people how to treat you. You know, what you allow is what will continue. Simple as that. Anyway, before I go, here are some thoughts on establishing boundaries to make sure your message is heard, understood, remembered, and followed. 1. Define the boundary and state preferred alternative action clearly and effectively. Make it known that you will not tolerate that boundary being crossed and why it bothers you. 2. Be assertive, not aggressive. Just as important is what you say, the way you say it matters. Being assertive is essentially standing up for yourself, you know? But being aggressive means being against the other person, right? Including verbally attacking them. Instead of simply standing up for yourself, refrain from starting or engaging in arguments. You know, aggressiveness is more likely to cause a fight and can cause the other person to act defensively and less likely to listen. 3. Remain consistent with your boundary. 4. Reciprocate. Be sure to, ask the other person what boundaries they need to establish and do your best to honor them. Model the behavior you want to see in others. Well, you might ask, will these tips really help? And will they really keep my boundaries respected? Honestly, there is no guarantee, but I would like to say that in any healthy relationship, people respect each other's boundaries once they've been communicated. Boundaries are invisible, so the only thing that keeps them in place is communicating them. If somebody really cares, if they respect you, if they love you, they will honor them, they will listen to you. I hope you've gained greater clarity today about this topic. For more information or personalized assistance with defining, setting, and enforcing your boundaries, reach me on Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.